If you're thinking of starting a blog, you should think very carefully about where you're going to put it on the internet, because it can make a huge difference of how successful you end up being. Hi, I'm Jesse. I usually focus on helping scientists and researchers to communicate their science more effectively through lessons in science writing and science marketing, but today I'm going to be talking about blogging in general for anybody who wants to get into blogging and thinking about how to align your blog strategy with the blog platform that you end up choosing. I'm going to be talking about some of the most popular option styles and archetypes and some of the advantages and disadvantages of each. But first, I'm going to talk about why you should care about this at all. If you're picking a place for your content on the internet, it's a little bit like choosing a location for a store. What are the 3 rules of real estate? Location, location, location. When it comes to online content, where you position it on the internet will make a really big difference of what kind of people you attract, how rapidly you attract them, and the kinds of transactions that you can do with them while they're there. So you need to be aware of the advantages and disadvantages of each type of position in order to maximize your impact. For bloggers, there are 3 main subjects that I would focus on. The first is how easy it is to get set up and actually manage the content. The second one is how easy it is to build an audience. And the third is how easy is it to monetize. Now, I go into all of these for all of the platforms I talk about in this video in a blog post that is attached to this. You can find that in the comment. But for now, I'm going to be focusing on the main advantages and disadvantages of each of 3 different archetypes of platforms. So the 3 main blogging platform options that are available to you are blogging networks. So I think that's really just Medium. That's what I'm talking about there. The second one is newsletters, which there's actually a lot of options in that case. And then there are personal websites, and there's tons of options there. So those are the 3 main strategies I'm going to be talking about in terms of their advantages and disadvantages. So the first is the blogging network Medium. You've probably heard about this before if you're on the internet frequently, but you might not know how it works. So people sign up to this website. You can sign up for free to write there or to read on the website. You're limited to how much you can read on the website. If you're only signed up for free, you have to pay $5 a month, I think it is as of right now, in order to read an infinite number of articles. But anyway, there's a whole monetization thing there that the writers can get some money if they are also paid in. But the important part is that this is a network that anybody can write on, and that it does reward those writers with some monetization compensation. The reason that I'm kind of specifying this as the only one in this strategy is this is really the only viable blogging network that I'm aware of. There have been some previous ones, iterations that have existed in previous iterations of the internet, but this is really the only one that I think of as being viable as of right now to actually build a following and to monetize effectively. It's very popular, but it does have some own hiccups and idiosyncrasies that make it kind of weird to use in some capacities, and it's definitely not perfect for everybody. Who this platform is actually best for are beginning writers. The reason why is that if you write something that's relatively good, Medium will select it for distribution is what it's called there, and they will push it out to members who are interested in that kind of content. And they'll analyze the content and say like, okay, well, what kind of content is this? And then they'll share it with the people who express a relevant interest in that area. And that's a really good thing for somebody who's starting out, that you're just going to get some number of eyeballs on your writing, and it does encourage you to learn things about proper structuring and making sure that you're editing well. So these are all important considerations when you're starting out, and it's also just really easy to use. It's a really easy site to get started on. The platform does have issues though, particularly for more experienced writers. I think you're going to feel a little bit boxed in by the distribution system, that it really rewards very particular types of content. It also restricts you of the kinds of monetization that you can do. There are a lot of monetization strategies on the internet these days that you can do of influencer marketing and creator coins and all sorts of things, but Medium really doesn't allow you to do a lot of that while still getting distributed. It'll allow you to write stuff in that has promotional materials or other monetization features that are enabled in some ways, but it's going to penalize you at the distribution side of things. So if you are interested in making money off the platform, you really have to do it through their distribution system, and that requires a ton of readership within the actual platform itself. So unless you are playing by the rules of the system, writing the kind of content that people on that platform already like, it's going to be really hard to make much headway. there. So if you want to have that freedom, Medium really isn't the place for you to be, at least from the distribution side. You can write whatever you want there if you just want a place to write that's simple to use. And I think that's part of the reason why I suggest it for first-time writers. Just show up there, try to get distributed, see what you can do, and if that is effective for you, then you can maybe go deeper into it, or you can transition off to another platform once you feel like you get the hang of things. Speaking of other platforms, let's transition to the next one, and that's newsletters. So newsletters aren't exactly blogs, but they're also not exactly not blogs. If you look at things like Substack, which is probably the most popular one or the most well-known one on the internet right now, this is a way to share your basically blogging content through an email circulation. You also do have a web page functionally through the Substack site. The big advantage of a place like Substack is that it has really rich monetization features that are really easy to use. So you can turn on a subscription-based model of your newsletter in order to make money off of it and just write into the newsletter format. It has those pages as well that could technically rank in Google as well as a way to attract users, but that does have some downsides too that we'll get to in a moment. Now, Substack isn't the only one that has this option, like unlike Medium, which is basically the only blogging network. There are a lot of different systems that you can use for writing your newsletters and to get paid for them as well. So one of the reasons that Substack is the most popular is because it really pioneered this and made it much more popular to have that monetized newsletter system. But if you wanted to use another one for some other reason that maybe you have it already, or you just don't like Substack for whatever reason, you can go off and do that. So what's the downside of newsletters? It's actually really about getting an audience for it. It's really tough to attract people to sign up for your newsletter. Like, who's going onto the internet in the morning and said, I really need more email. Like, that's what I really want today, is to just flood my inbox with more stuff. That's not it. In order to convince people to sign up to your newsletter, you really have to be offering them really premium value, especially if you're going to ask them to pay for it too down the road. The people who have actually been most successful in writing newsletters are people who are kind of famous already, particularly internet famous people. If you look at the pages on Substack for most popular writers, a lot of them are people who already had an internet following before Substack came around. And that means that for people who are not already internet famous, it's going to be a little bit tough to really make it and rise up the ranks of that. Not that it's impossible, there are people who've done it, but you probably want at least a small online following before jumping into Substack, because I think that you're going to find it difficult to really make it there if you're not somebody who already has at least some degree of recognition. It should also be noted that the visibility of Substack content in search engines is a little bit fuzzy. It's not really very effective at picking up Google traffic. So that means that if you want to be growing your blog through organic traffic, newsletters are going to have a really tough time to get it into that area. So the last platform is a personal website blog. So you start a website and you put a blog on it. That has a lot of advantages because you have a lot more power and a lot more freedom and a lot more ability to do kind of whatever you want there. It's a really flexible space with tons of options, and it can kind of look like anything that you want. The downside is obviously that it's a lot more complicated than doing a newsletter or a Medium page. Running a website is easier than most people think that it is in terms of complexity, but it is a reasonable amount of work that just takes more effort to set up blog posts, to manage the website. Like, it just requires, there's a lot of busy work on that back end. So you're gonna have to get used to that and adjust to that, but it's still a very useful tool to have access to for other reasons. Some of them include monetization choices. So you can do any kind of monetization that you want. You can do subscription bases, you can do the influencer marketing, you can run ads on it if that's what you want to go with. So anything along those lines. It's all free for you to use. It just requires the work. You just constantly have to be putting in the work in order to make any of this work. Distribution, it is harder than Medium in the sense that you're not going to get quite as much free distribution as like a platform that's pushing people to your blogs if they're good in that way. Though you have the advantage of search engine optimization. If you have search engines that are looking at your website, you're producing good content, you can attract people to your website just through search traffic, through Google traffic. Search engine optimization is a whole other topic that has a lot to it, but you are definitely going to have to think about that as a way to attract people to your website, which has some of the same features as the kind of discipline that is given by Medium in terms of their distribution, but it's a little bit less strict in many ways. So anyway, that is the credit, the idea behind running a personal website. More complicated, but more flexibility and really powerful monetization tools if that's what you want to have access to. Overall, I would say that if you're new to writing on the internet, I would start with Medium. It's a very easy place to get going and to learn the basics of writing on the internet and how it sort of works and what people are looking for. The next is that if you already have a following on the internet, I would start with a newsletter because it's the easiest way to sort of monetize that following and to turn it into both a better reputation, but also you can get subscriber money too, which is also cool. And then if you already have some experience of writing on the internet and you want to kind of take that up to the next level, go out and start a website and you can learn it. I trust that you can learn it if you already have some experience of writing on the internet. So like anybody can really do it. I do want to give a couple of quick hints here. If you are a science blogger interested in starting a science blog, there's a lot more about that in my article, but just a couple of quick comments. Medium is okay if you're in particular areas, particular content areas, because there's some that are more important and more popular than others. So things like more technology or more environmental focus. There's a lot more going on there as opposed to more like the natural sciences, like hard science, theoretical stuff. There are a lot fewer people on that platform reading that kind of content. So if you really want to go in a much more theoretical, hardcore direction, you're going to have a hard time on Medium, I think. But if you are able to get more of the popular side of science, I think that it's not a bad place to be. For newsletters, I don't think it's a very natural fit for most science bloggers. I think that the search engine traffic that you can generate from your niche content is a really big advantage that you can have as a science blogger who's an expert in a given topic. You can, of course, write a newsletter if it fits for what you're doing, like you want to do news roundups or something like this. It can definitely fit there, but for the average science blogger, newsletters are probably not the place where I would start. I do think that websites are actually particularly good for science bloggers because you can develop sort of an expertise on a given area and you develop it out over a course of articles, and your website becomes a hub for a particular type of niche content. And while you're not going to bring in like millions of visitors per week, I would expect, but you're going to probably be able to corner a particular niche if you're an expert in a sophisticated technical area. And it's great for people who want a business and something like consulting. But that'll be it for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hopefully this was useful. If it was, be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out that blog post. There's a lot more detail in there. But yeah, that'll be it for me. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.